Again, I'm Bob Peterson, teacher and founder of Rethink Schools and now president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. I have about 10 points, but they'll be brief. The first point is that we are at class war in Wisconsin. They want to destroy public education. And right now, they're winning. They won the first battle. They're not going to win the next one, hopefully. They are doing this by attacking public sector workers. We've become one of the most reactionary right-to-work states in terms of legislation in the country. They're cutting funding massively for public schools, $1 billion, $1.6 billion out of Wisconsin public schools. And they've written an open check to private school vouchers. You said that the charters are the second largest school system in Pennsylvania. The private school voucher program in Milwaukee is the second largest school system in Wisconsin. 85% of those students attend religious schools. They have no public accountability whatsoever, and it takes $50 million a year out of the public schools. Second point, we were not prepared for the war that came down this spring. And when I say we, I mean the left, I mean progressives, I mean the unions, I mean educational activists. People did not know that this was going to come down so hard and so fast. And we have a lot to work to do in all those areas. Third thing, elections matter. As much as sometimes I think the Democrats and Republicans are the same, two wings of the same bird, in some cases they're not. And a lot of people voted their prejudice, not their class interest, in recent elections in this country, and the working class and people of color are paying for it. The correlate to that is mass protests matter. Wisconsin saw probably the largest upsurge in working class organizing and protest in the last several decades, 50 decades. I mean, it was massive, it was energizing, and I'd like to quote Paula Ferrari, who says that conflict is the midwife of consciousness, and a lot of people grew dramatically, politically, in this last several month period in Wisconsin. And another thing that grew were the spines of the Democratic Party legislators. Because without the mass protests, the 13 senators in Wisconsin who vacated the state and escaped Illinois for 3 weeks, they would not have done that. It was because of people in the streets. And it's because of the lack of people in the streets that when the Democrats ran the state previous, they did squat to change the school funding formula and a number of other social things. So it's up to us to push those Democrats who are in power, when they are in power, if they ever get back in power, to do what is right. And I'll just say it's something that the power of, when things came down in Wisconsin, the Madison teachers, I'm getting emotional. The Madison teachers went out 4 days straight. And it's illegal to strike in Wisconsin. It's illegal to strike. It wasn't a strike. They called an absent and they exercised their political, their right to free speech. They weren't striking against their employer. They were striking really against state power. They inspired the rest of us. At the school I'm at, the first day, 87% of the teachers at Fratney called in sick and went to Madison. We couldn't shut down. We had a phone bank at Rethink Schools that night, the previous night, trying to call enough teachers in Wisconsin and Milwaukee to close it down. We didn't succeed. Our principal, though, said, go to it. If I have to have 400 kids in the gym, I'll take care of it. massive, 30,000 people. You see whole high school students walked out when the Madison teachers could no longer go out. The high school students walked out in mass. The Fraternity staff got together at lunch and said, "We're going to close it down." They got on their phones with a couple other teachers from 3 other schools in Milwaukee. They called up, and the next day, the district closed down because it was unsafe to have so many teachers absent. It's mass organizing really pays off. My 5th point: the court of public opinion matters. What was said about parent community alliances is key. What we did, I'll just say one other thing in terms of the Democrats. What Duncan, when he came into power, said he will have failed. He told the AP he will have failed if when his term is up, more urban districts aren't run by mayors. And Milwaukee was targeted. Milwaukee was targeted. The Democratic governor, the Democratic mayor, and the business community in Duncan all wanted to do it to us. I was with a group, like Educators Network for Social Justice. This is when the union wasn't able to maneuver as well. We started with NAACP, a coalition, 22 groups. Finally, it was the largest coalition in years. We stopped the mayoral takeover of the Milwaukee Public Schools. That included picketing in front of the homes and the civil rights tactics of Democratic legislators who 10 months later would become our allies. No permanent friends, no permanent allies in some of this work. The next thing, couple more points, and I'll wrap up. Power obviously comes from organized money and organized people. Those are the 2 places in our society, and we don't have as much money as our enemies, so we have to organize ourselves. We also must not just mobilize, but we have to organize. And the difference between that, in the unions, I think, fall prey to this a lot, as do left activists. We go out, we have these rallies, we have these demonstrations, but we have to educate people. We have to organize ourselves in small groups, in different ways. It depends on the kind of people, but we can't just mobilize. It's not sustainable. It's not going to win the battle. The right wing organizes. They also mobilize too, but they really do a good job organizing. Of course, this helps if you have millions of dollars, but we have to do it. We also have to name the enemy. We have to name it accurately. In Wisconsin, for instance, there's a whole section of the ruling class, say the GE company, the GE Foundation, that doesn't like Walker. They only support public schools. But there's another section of the super wealthy. I mean, there's divisions within them too. We shouldn't paint them all the same. Finally, we have to teach our children. We have to quote a book, Transforming Teacher Unions, Fighting for Better Schools and Social Justice, which was co-edited by me and Michael Charney over here from Cleveland. We asked Howard Zinn about what role should teacher unions play in terms of promoting understanding. He says, if teacher unions want to be strong and well supported, it's essential that they not only be teacher unionists, but teachers of unionism. We need to create a generation of students who support teachers in the movement for workers' rights, oppressed people's rights. That's our responsibility. And with that in mind, I'm going to end with a poem of one of my students. Some of you have heard this poem. It was during the struggle against Walker, and it was an assignment of mine after they come up from lunch, sort of rambunctious, very rambunctious. Sit down, listen, and write in their journal. And the journal question was, well, how does the budget cuts affect you? Just a little background: 1/3 of the staff at Fraternity is being cut this year. We're losing. We already lost our music to gym teacher. We're losing our art teacher, our librarian, our math leader, our literacy coach, our only paraprofessional, not special ed, our parent organizer, and 7 classroom teachers. Oh. We are being destroyed. So, Edie Redwine, Native American student, good writer. She writes something. I go over and look in her journal and read it. That's nice. He says, that's a nice poem. She says, it's not a poem. She said, what is it? She says, it's a letter to the governor. Okay. And so we did title the poem Letter to Governor Scott Walker. And that is budget cuts, an unfair mutiny that destroys the economy and slowly tears apart all humanity, and makes the flaws of ourselves that much deeper, that much bigger, and that much more hurtful. It's hard to believe that all this circles around Governor Walker, the king of destroying schools and jobs. So congratulations, Scott. You've ruined kids' lives. Now isn't that a sport? Sincerely, just a student. P.S. Kids are the future. Frightened?